Imagine a windswept coast in 1803 where the cliffs of Boulogne-sur-Mer hum with restless energy. Picture 100,000 French soldiers, Napoleon's feared Grand Army, camped along the shore, their eyes fixed on a distant prize. Britain just 21 miles across the English Channel. The air crackles with tension. Napoleon Bonaparte, the Corsican genius who'd already conquered half of Europe, paces the dunes, his mind racing. Britain isn't just another target. It's the stubborn island that funds his foes, mocks his empire, and stands defiant against his dream of total domination. For 2 years, between 1803 and 1805, he schemes to cross that narrow strip of water and bring the British lion to its knees. This was no idle fantasy. It was a plan, a daring, obsessive one, and it all centered on the Boulogne camp. The Boulogne camp wasn't just a military base, it was a sprawling war machine. Over 2,000 ships, barges, gunboats, and transports lined the harbor, ready to ferry Napoleon's army in a lightning invasion. Soldiers drilled day and night, while engineers perfected flat-bottom boats designed to swarm the channel. The goal? Land on British soil, march to London, and end the war in weeks. But there was a problem, a massive one. The British Navy, the undisputed ruler of the seas, loomed like a wall of iron and fire. Led by legends like Admiral Horatio Nelson, it patrolled relentlessly, daring Napoleon to make his move. And in October 1805, that move came crashing down. The Battle of Trafalgar saw Britain annihilate the combined French and Spanish fleets in a storm of cannonballs and blood. Napoleon's naval dreams sank to the ocean floor. The invasion was over before it began. Britain laughed, safe behind its invincible moat, or so they thought. But what if Napoleon had outsmarted them? What if the emperor, ever the cunning fox, had a trick up his sleeve the British never saw coming? Let's pivot to an alternate history, a twist where the impossible becomes reality. Ever wondered how different historical events could have unfolded and what the world might look like today because of those alternative events? Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on fascinating new videos exploring alternative history. It's late 1805, just before Trafalgar. The channel is cloaked in a thick, eerie fog. Napoleon seizes the moment. Spain, his shaky ally, steps up with a bolstered fleet. Faster ships, sharper crews. But there's more. Whispers swirl of a secret edge. Maybe crude hot air balloons drift overhead, dropping smoke and chaos to blind the British watch posts. It works. Under cover of night and mist, French ships glide through the blockade. The Royal Navy, smug in its supremacy, misses the breach. Then it happens. Dawn breaks and Dover's beaches tremble under the boots of French troops. The British, basking in their Trafalgar triumph, are stunned. How did Napoleon defy the odds? What was the one move that turned the tide? The powder keg has ignited, and the spark is about to set Britain ablaze. Stick around. History as you know it is about to unravel. Part 2. The invasion unfolds. Dawn breaks, and the cliffs of Dover tremble as French ships emerge from the mist. Britain's nightmare begins. Napoleon's armada, shrouded by fog, slams into the shore with a roar of cannons. The sea churns, waves crash, and hundreds of boats disgorge soldiers onto the beaches. French troops swarm forward, a relentless tide of blue coats and gleaming steel. The British, basking in their naval supremacy, are caught off guard. Redcoats scramble down from the cliffs, muskets in hand, but the chaos swallows them. Shots ring out, smoke billows, and blood stains the sand. Napoleon has landed, and the island quakes. The Battle of Dover unfolds in a brutal flash. French cannons pound the shoreline, tearing through hastily assembled defenses. The Redcoats fight fiercely, but they're outnumbered, outmaneuvered. Napoleon's genius cuts like a blade. He feints an attack on the cliffs, drawing British forces east, while his real strike surges from the west, where the lines are thin. By midday, Dover falls. The French banner rises over the smoking ruins, and Napoleon turns his gaze north. London is his prize, and he wastes no time. His army blitzes forward, infantry marching double time, cavalry thundering ahead. The cuirassiers, armored and unstoppable, smash through militia outposts. 50 miles shrink to 20, then 10. Britain's heart lies exposed. But Napoleon doesn't just conquer with steel, he wields words. As his forces carve through the countryside, he stops in villages, his officers distributing pamphlets. "No more kings, no more chains," he proclaims, casting himself as a liberator. The conqueror of Europe dares Britain to dream of a world without monarchy. Some locals, ground down by war and want, listen. Could this invader truly free them? It's a paradox, a crowned emperor preaching liberty. But it works. Doubt festers, loyalties waver. Meanwhile, London spirals into panic. King George III flees north, a royal shadow vanishing in the night. Parliament bickers, fight or surrender. The French are at the gates. Dusk falls as Napoleon enters London, a conqueror in triumph. His troops march in lockstep, drums rolling, the tricolor waving high. The city holds its breath. No cheers, no resistance, just a stunned silence. He storms the tower, claims it as his own, and declares Britain his. Victory is absolute, or is it? The conqueror of continents now fights on an island, but can he hold it? Shadows stir in the stillness. Whispers echo in alehouses. Knives sharpen in basements. Britain's spirit, battered but unbroken, smolders beneath the surface. Napoleon's won the day, but did he miss something crucial? Could this island defy him where empires fell? Wait till you see what's next. Part 3. A New World Order. Britain lies humbled, its crown shattered. Napoleon wastes no time. He crowns himself Protector of the Isles, a title dripping with irony for the man who once swore to crush kings. London's streets, once bustling with defiance, now echo with French commands. The British Empire, the titan that spanned oceans, is reduced to a mere province in Napoleon's grand design. Europe reels, Spain and Prussia tremble, while Russia watches warily. The balance of power isn't just tipped, it's obliterated. France, already dominant, now reigns supreme, its grip unchallenged from Lisbon to London. But what happens when the unbeatable fall? Could France have ruled the 19th century? Let's pull the thread and see how the world unravels. With Britain under his boot, Napoleon redraws the map. Trade routes bend to his will. French ports swell with wealth, while London's docks rot. The Industrial Revolution, once Britain's pride, shifts across the Channel. Paris becomes the beating heart of innovation, its factories churning out steam engines and textiles. Coal and iron flow from conquered lands, fueling an empire that knows no rival. Across the Atlantic, America watches, unchecked. Without British rivalry to temper its ambitions, the young nation sprawls westward, unchallenged. No War of 1812, no British blockade, perhaps manifest destiny arrives decades early. The world spins differently now, its axis tilted by one man's victory. But cracks appear. Britain's spirit, though bruised, isn't broken. Underground movements stir, whispers of rebellion, sabotage in the night. Napoleon, stretched thin from Dublin to Moscow, faces a grim truth. Conquering an island is easier than holding it. His legions, once invincible, now bleed from 1,000 cuts. And here's where that fatal flaw we hinted at bites. The emperor who preached liberty now rules as a tyrant. His promises of freedom ring hollow, and Britain's defiance grows. Meanwhile, France's coffers drain. Endless wars, endless garrisons. The empire, bloated and brittle, teeters on the edge. English, once the tongue of global trade, fades into a quaint dialect. French becomes the language of power, culture, and commerce. The British Empire's legacy, India, Africa, the Caribbean, slips into French hands. The sun never sets on Napoleon's realm, but it's a twilight glow, flickering with unrest. This isn't just history, it's a mirror. What would we lose if giants fell today? Could this explain why English isn't the global language? Or why Europe's borders look so different? In this fractured reality, the world we know is but a shadow. Conclusion. The lesson in the chaos. Napoleon Bonaparte, military genius, emperor, and dreamer of a world under his command. His ambition wasn't just to rule France, but to redraw the map of Europe and beyond. One of his boldest gambles? The planned invasion of Britain in 1805. Picture it. Thousands of troops amassed along the French coast, the channel bristling with ships, and Britain staring down the barrel of an unprecedented threat. This wasn't just a battle. It was a potential turning point that could have rewritten everything we know about the modern world. By 1805, Napoleon had already conquered much of Europe. His Grande Armée was unstoppable, his navy was gearing up, and his eyes were fixed on the island nation that stood as his greatest rival. Britain, with its naval supremacy and stubborn resilience, was the one domino that refused to fall. The plan was audacious: assemble a flotilla, outmaneuver the Royal Navy, and land an army on English soil. From there, London would be his, and with it, the heart of the British Empire. But it didn't happen. The Battle of Trafalgar smashed his naval hopes, and the invasion never left the drawing board. Why does this near miss matter? Because it's a window into how fragile history can be. Imagine a world where Napoleon succeeds. No British Empire to shape the 19th century. Maybe even no industrial revolution as we know it. One man's victory could have been our loss. What does that say about the threads that hold history together? Let's reflect on that. Britain's survival wasn't just luck. It wasn't just Admiral Nelson's brilliance or a stormy channel crossing. Maybe it was destiny's way of keeping balance. Napoleon's empire was a juggernaut, but every juggernaut needs a check. Britain became that check, holding the line when the stakes couldn't have been higher. And yet it was so close. A shift in the wind, a misstep by the Royal Navy, and we'd be telling a different story today. History's a game of inches, and Napoleon almost won it all. What's the lesson in this chaos? That the past isn't as solid as it seems? It's a house of cards built on decisions, gambles, and moments where everything could have flipped. Napoleon's dream didn't just threaten Britain, it challenged the idea of inevitability. We like to think the world we inherited was always meant to be, but what if it wasn't? What if one man's ambition had tipped the scales? It's a thought that lingers, a shadow over the cliffs of Dover that still echoes today. This is why history's wild side keeps us hooked. It's not just dates and battles, it's the what-ifs that pull us in. What if Napoleon had crossed the Channel? What if Britain had fallen? These questions don't just entertain, they make us see the past as a living thing, full of possibilities we'll never fully grasp. And that's where you come in. Love this dive into the chaos? Hit that like button, subscribe for more, and let us know in the comments. What if should we tackle next? Maybe the Roman Empire never falls, or the American Revolution goes the other way. The past is a treasure trove of surprises, and we're just scratching the surface. So here we are, at the end of one journey and the start of another. Napoleon's dream didn't come true, but it left its mark, a reminder that history isn't a straight line. It's a tangle of near misses, bold moves, and the occasional miracle. Let's keep exploring it together. Tell us your thoughts, share your ideas, and stick around. The next What If is waiting.